Okay friends, welcome to part 1 of my video presentation on business intelligence or BI. This presentation is largely based on this paper tutorial that I posted to Canvas earlier, the one by Hugh Watson. However, there are some add-ons that I made to kind of contextualize this tutorial a little bit and make it more relevant for this particular class. Now, before we go into the main subject matter, which is business intelligence or BI, I would like to stop and reflect a little bit on the connection between today's lecture, again about business intelligence, and what we talked about previously, which is decision support systems. Now, I would like to address this from different angles. When it comes to terminology, in a way, I would say that business intelligence or BI is a newer or fancier term for decision support systems. I would say that decision support systems or DSS is a term that is a bit outdated. I mean, it has been used for the last 20 or 30 years, and a lot of the young business professionals they don't really remember this kind of terminology, or this kind of terminology I'm talking about, DSS or decision support system, does not tell them much. But for anybody who has been in the field of computing for the last 20 or 30 years, DSS or decision support system is something that makes sense. Okay, so business intelligence, in a way, it's a new term for decision support systems. However, as we will see later on, business intelligence or BI is a much broader concept, much broader field. Number 2, I would like to make the connection between our previous lecture and today's lecture on the content level. Now, when we talked about decision support systems, we kind of addressed this topic from human or psychological side. We said that human beings, unfortunately, they are notoriously bad at making decisions. And I'm sure there are many reasons as to why humans are bad at making decisions, but the main ones that we discussed were as follows. First of all, as discovered by Herbert Simon, Nobel Prize-winning American economist, humans suffer from something called bounded rationality. Now, bounded rationality means a lot of things, and basically Simon, he spent his entire life doing research in that area. But one of the things that bounded rationality means is that we are not computers. We humans, we are not like computers. We don't have unlimited memory resources. More specifically, from what I remember, Herbert Simon basically showed with his experimental research that humans can keep something like between 3 and 5 chunks of information in their brain at a time. So, for example, if I give you 3 numbers, 1, 24, 27, you'll remember those 3 numbers. However, if I give you something that contains more than 5 chunks of information, let's say 7 chunks, I tell you 1, 5, 6, 27, 35, 65, 17, then you may have difficulties keeping those 7 chunks in your brain and then writing it down, right? So human beings have limited process memory or information processing capacity. Unfortunately, in today's organizations, employees are bombarded with all kinds of information. So their mental capacity, their memory, their brain gets overloaded, and that's something that prevents them from making good decisions. Number 2, even if humans are not overloaded with information, the kind of models that they're applying to data or to reality are often flawed. So that's where cognitive biases come in, and we talked about a number of cognitive biases that humans have. For example, wishful thinking, wishing that things should be a certain way in accordance with your feelings, with your own beliefs, as opposed to accepting things as they really are. Okay, so for example, a manager may perceive a particular employee to be a very good contributing employee, simply because he likes this particular employee on the human level. In other words, they are friends, let's say, right? Now, because they're friends, and just because the boss has positive human level perception of that particular employee, does not necessarily mean that this employee is a good and productive employee. It could be actually quite the opposite. So the kind of models that we're applying, the kind of decision-making heuristic or rules that we're applying to real world are often flawed, and they lead to wrong or suboptimal decisions. So this is where decision support systems or computers in general come in. I mean, unlike humans, computers are very good at aggregating, filtering, and summarizing information, right? So Computers, unlike humans, they don't get overloaded with data easily. So computers help humans overcome bounded rationality. Number two, for some structured decision-making scenarios, computers are also very good because you can embed those decision-making models, let's say statistical models, using code, using computer code. And again, unlike humans, computers are very consistent at using those models and applying those models to data. They rarely make any kind of mistakes. But again, human weakness with respect to decision making is also their strength, because unlike computers, humans are very good when it comes to making unstructured decisions. For example, taking a book or taking an article and telling others, what is this article about? Okay, computers are not very good at making those kind of unstructured decisions and assessments. Humans, on the other hand, are very good at it, so it's actually their strength. But again, things are changing nowadays, and computers are becoming more and more intelligent. There's that belief expressed in one of the books written by Erik Brynjolfsson. I always have problems pronouncing his name. But he basically he talks about the fact that computers are becoming more intelligent, and even in tasks that are very unstructured, computers are becoming more and more capable. For example, driving a car, right? If you've been following Google's experiment with cars that navigate around the San Francisco Bay Area just by using GPS and sensors without any human intervention, you see that there is some kind of truth to the argument made by Erik Brynjolfsson and his colleagues about the fact that computers will replace humans even in those unstructured decision-making scenarios. Now I will pull this book really quick so that you can see it. Just 1 second, please. Yeah, this is the book that I'm talking about. It talks about evolution of computing and makes a very bold prediction that basically says that computers will be increasingly efficient in unstructured decision making. And they also have a very negative message for the new generation. It means that a lot of the professions that we thought were stable and could not be automated, such as truck driver or taxi driver, according to Erik Brynjolfsson and his colleague, they will get replaced by computers. Okay. But again, I wouldn't take this gloomy prediction too seriously, because whenever something like that is predicted, then life and human civilization always find their way around this, right? So maybe there will be less demand for truck drivers within the next 20 years, but there will be more demand for musicians, for entertainers, for I don't know, for something that requires creative endeavors. So yeah, if you ever have a chance, take a look at this book. A very interesting read that makes very bold and powerful predictions about the future of computing and the kind of impact future computing technologies will have on business and society. Anyways, this is the connection I was trying to make between decision support systems and business intelligence. Now let's go to the subject matter of business intelligence, if you don't mind. A bit of history of the terminology. Now, the term business intelligence, or BI, was coined back in 1989 by somebody named Howard Dresner. Later, he started working as an analyst at Gartner. Now, Gartner, in case you don't know, is one of well, it's not one, it's the top IT research companies. Number two would be Forrester. So Gartner is well known for their technology reports. They have many frameworks that they popularized. For example, one of the frameworks that they use is Technology Hype Curve. So Technology Hype Curve predicts, how technologies will evolve in terms of their popularity among, companies and individuals. So a lot of computing professionals, especially the ones who are in managerial and top management positions, they read, reports released by Gartner. So they coined many terms, many ideas. They created many ideas, many theories, in the field of information technology. Now, as I told you before, the term BI is now quite popular in the industry. It's replacing other terms such as, statistical analysis, quantitative analysis, decision support systems, and so forth. But, nowadays BI is used to describe all DSS applications and technologies. So BI replaces DSS and goes even beyond, decision support systems concept. Now, let's talk about the definition of BI. Business intelligence, or BI, can be defined as a broad category of software applications, technologies, processes for gathering, storing, accessing, and analyzing data. Mostly people would say data, but also, some people would argue that business intelligence go beyond that. It processes data into information, with information being defined as data being processed or summarized into a form that is useful for humans and useful for decision making. Some people would also say that that BI or business intelligence goes beyond information and creates knowledge repositories. Now, the difference between knowledge and information is that knowledge is information that can be acted upon, right? So information means knowing what or knowing about, and knowledge means knowing how. Knowing how to do something with this information, how to act based upon that information. Now, ultimately, business intelligence is all about helping business users make better decisions, and then I would add decisions that improve organizational performance. So this is what business intelligence is all about. Now, it's a broad definition. It includes applications, technologies, processes, meaning managerial or business processes. Also, it includes not only getting data getting data out, in other words, extracting data from a database or some kind of storage and putting it into some kind of report, but also getting data in. In other words, how to gather data and how to store it for further analysis, which is getting data out. Now, the reason we're saying that, when we're kind of elaborating on the definition like that, is that some authors use business intelligence term to refer to getting data out. In other words, they're talking about analysis part, not necessarily the gathering of data part. And then they use data warehousing for getting data in, meaning the gathering of data, gathering and storing of data. Now, there is also a group of people, and I would say this group is not that large. They use data warehousing for both getting data out and getting data in. In other words, they use data warehousing concept instead of BI for describing what we typically mean by BI. But in our case, just to go back, we will stick to this definition of business intelligence or BI. Now, what are the three main targets or issues of business intelligence? Number one, integration, the development of a single or a few related BI applications. So the idea here is that it's always good to integrate business intelligence infrastructure into one single, maybe big, but yet one single enterprise application. The number one issue of business intelligence or BI is infrastructure, creating the right kind of hardware and software infrastructure that would support current and future needs for business intelligence. And in this video presentation, we'll talk quite a bit about infrastructure or architecture for business intelligence. And then the third target or issue of business intelligence, I would say it's the most important one, is organizational transformation. Integrating data sources and business applications and creating top-notch hardware and software infrastructure that would support current and future BI needs is not enough. At the end of the day, business intelligence it should lead to business transformation. It should lead to business decisions that improve organizational performance. Because if this doesn't happen, if organizational transformation based on business intelligence does not happen, then all those other targets is pretty much a waste. So this will conclude part one of my video presentation on business intelligence. Thanks for listening.